How's your week going so far? My name is Alicia.
I'm Nicole.
Let's take a little time away from the hustle and bustle of adulting and let's indulge our curiosities just for a bit and talk about killers, psychos, and the unexplained.
Today we are venturing to Maryland to talk about Hayden Clark and Joe Metheny.
Welcome to Maryland, home to Joe the Cannibal Metheny. He was also known as Tiny, who would murder and serve up his victims from his roadside barbecue stand.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You,
I
you
was, I was not expecting that.
Joseph Roy Metheny was born on March 2nd, 1955. He was one of six children. Joe's father was an alcoholic and would end up dying in a car accident when Joe was just 6 years old. This left his mother struggling to raise the six children on her own, working long hours and multiple jobs. Joe's mother clearly had a lot on her plate. But according to Joe, it was during this time that his mother would send the kids to live in different foster care situations. However, his mom disputes that, basically saying she worked her tail off to make sure those kids were cared for and never went hungry. But Joe resents her nonetheless, saying she neglected him and his siblings. In 1973, when Joe was 18, he joined the Army. And this is when Joe says his heroin addiction started. Once he returned home, Joe would work as a forklift driver by day and frequent the bars in the evening. He was basically living a double life. Daytime Joe was driving forklifts, and he was described by his coworkers as an intelligent man who was a practical joker and would just keep them laughing all day. Joe was nicknamed Tiny because he was a larger man, standing like 6'1" or 6'2", and he weighed around 450 pounds. He was just thought of as like an average guy, right? Well, after work hours, he would be spending that paycheck on Southern Comfort, crack cocaine, and heroin. He would sit at the bar every night, putting down shots, finding whatever drugs for the evening. He didn't have an established residence and would end up sleeping at different homeless camps. Jill met his girlfriend at one of these camps, bonding over their shared interest in smoking crack. She ended up getting pregnant, and in 1988, they moved in together with their son. But by July of 1994, while Joe was at work, she took off with their then 6-year-old son. Now, this sent Joe off in a spiral. He stated he really didn't care that she was gone, but he was beyond pissed that she took his kid from him. Then, come to find out 6 months later, that after she had left him, she acquired herself a pimp and was on the streets selling her body for drugs.
Oh.
He ended up being arrested for the drug possession, and his son was taken away from her for neglect and abuse. And oh man, like Joe was livid about this. Like, not only you took my kid, you got my kid taken away. And he was saying like that crack whore got his son taken away, and now he's coming for her.
I want to know, I just want to stop you. What crackhead slash heroin user do you know that weighs that much?
I don't know. No
Like,
big, no big man.
yeah. You just picture a crackhead and you're thinking some skinny, shaky dude, right?
Yeah. Apparently not.
Oh, I didn't even, okay.
At the time, so Joe was working at Joseph Stein and Son Pallet Company, which was located in Southwest Baltimore, and was living in a trailer on the property. The property was on a dead end road, and Joe said he would act as like a security officer at night because it was pretty like isolated back there. So that's why Stein would allow him to live there because he's watching over everything for him during the evening hours when no one was there, right? The trailer was in a secluded area, like off to the side of the property. And in July of 1994, he brought Kathy Ann Magaziner back to his trailer to do heroin together. They end up having intercourse, and afterwards, Joe strangled her and wrapped an extension cord around her neck and suffocated her. After taking whatever money she had in her purse, he dug a 2 foot deep grave.
2 feet.
2 feet. Behind
Girl,
the
anybody can find that. 2 feet?
2 feet. I mean, you don't want to work yourself too hard now, but he dug a 2 foot deep grave behind the company property and he buried her there. Then 6 months later, he went back, dug up the body, took her head, and had intercourse with it.
Ew,
And
what?
yes, then he disposed of it into a trash container.
There's just the head?
Yeah.
So he dug up the body just for the head, left
Yeah,
the rest of the body in that 2-foot grave.
yeah, but he wanted to bang it out with her face one more time, I guess.
Okay.
So Joe is still trying to find his ex-girlfriend. So even though like he took her the magazine or girl home and all that, he's still like on the lookout for his ex. And he's going to like different homeless encampments that she had frequented, asking around. As he was wandering one of these camps they called, quote, Tent City, that's located under Baltimore's Hanover Street Bridge, he came across two men, Randall Brewer and Randy Piker. I guess while he was asking them about his ex-girlfriend, something snapped and he ended up murdering those two men with an axe, and he just left them covered up with like an old mattress that was at the encampment. Just laid them out, threw the mattress over them, called it good.
Oh.
Yes. So, side note, so these different encampments have they have multiple people coming and going, right? But there's rival groups of homeless men in this area. And one of these men had like wandered onto this tent city area. His name was Larry Amos. He ended up going onto the camp area. He found the axe on the ground, picked it up, took it, just walked away with it. But then he actually used it to murder another man named Everett Dowell. So now Randall and Randy's bodies, they were found the same day on August 2nd, 1995, because someone followed an awful smell and led them to the mattress. They moved the mattress, found the bodies. However, since Larry had the murder weapon and he had murdered somebody else with it, he was getting convicted of murdering that guy. So a jury ended up saying that there was insufficient evidence to even convict Joe of murdering Randall and Randy. Even though Joe had been arrested, they took him to jail. He spent like 8 months in jail waiting for these trials, and he actually confessed that he did it. But since like the murder weapon was used in a different murder and that guy was already convicted, we're just gonna let it go.
So
Yeah.
they. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Wild, right? Yeah. Anyhow, let's circle back. So Joe claims that after he murdered the two men, he lured two different sex workers to this, quote, tent city and questioned them about his ex's whereabouts. He was unhappy with their answers, so he ended up murdering them too. While he was doing that, he noticed a guy fishing and thought, maybe he was a witness. Did he see something? So he grabbed a steel pipe and murdered him as well.
Oh.
5 murders, according to Joe, in like a 7-hour period. So the two men under the mattress, the two sex workers, and a fisherman body, all within a few hours.
Who's even got time for all that?
Joe do. Mm-hmm. Maybe crack, spit him up some. I don't know. But so the two sex workers and the fisherman's body, what he did is he weighed them down, and so he would there was a river back there, so he weighed the bodies down and dumped them in the river, so they would just like sink all the way to the bottom. So yeah. So as I mentioned before, Joe gets picked up. He spent that time in jail, right? But he's been released now, and it's November 1996. Joe is living back at the trailer at the Joseph Stein and Son Pallet Company, and on the weekends he decided to start a new side gig, an open pit barbecue cart, serving up barbecue roast beef and pork sandwiches with a special meat mixed in. On November 11th, 1996, Kimberly Spicer, who was 26, she was at a local bar called Uncle Walt's Bar on Washington Avenue when she met Joe and decided to go back to his trailer to do drugs. Joe ended up stabbing her 26 times and had intercourse with her dead body.
Ugh.
Ultimately shoving an empty beer bottle inside of her vagina, wrapping her in a red tarp, drug her out back, and deposited her body underneath the truck trailer. Then, on December 9th, 1996, Rita Kemper went back to Joe's place to do drugs again. Joe tried to sexually assault her, but she wasn't having it, and she fought back. She did end up managing to escape. I guess she had to like climb over some barbed wire fence and everything, but she got away. But like during this attack, he was telling her like, I'm going to kill you and I'm going to bury you in the woods with the other girls. And yeah, so fortunately, when Rita was running away, she was able to flag down a police car. And she was telling the officers what Joe had said and what he did. And on December 15th, 1996, police end up arresting Joe. Okay, so another side note. The company that Joe was working for was called Joe Stein and Son Pallet Company. While Mr. Stein was doing some dirty work himself, there was multiple charges of burglary and robbery. His pallet company was doing more than just repairing and selling pallets. Mr. Stein had a side hustle selling stolen merchandise, like different truckloads from companies, drugs, guns, all of that. So investigators were already trying to build a case against Stein in a grand theft ring, and they were like monitoring his company area anyhow. However, with Joe out here just, murdering people, authorities had to cut that investigation short on Stein to arrest Joe. Stein did end up serving 10 years for arson, which I guess Joe, the AKA Tiny, was like his enforcer. So he would go and like threaten people for whatever business that Mr. Stein was doing. So there's just like multiple layers of crimes happening at the same time in the same area, just adding a whole complexity for these investigators. They're out here trying to investigate like a grand theft ring, and instead they find a whole cannibal killer. So there's that. So now Joe is back in custody, and he will confess to 10 murders. According to Joe, in 1976, his first murder was a man in a bar fight. Next, there were 2 sex workers in 1988 and 1989, and he disposed of their bodies into the river. However, divers searched the river not only for those 2 first victims, but those other 3 from that encampment. The 2 sex workers and the fishermen. So they're out there dredging, looking. No evidence of remains were ever discovered. Joe had so many stories and accounts of multiple murders he supposedly committed. His recollections changed frequently, and to this day, it's hard to know what really happened or what really didn't happen, what's real, what's not. I will say most of his confessions have yet to have evidence to prove anything. But according to Joe, before burying or disposing of his victims, he would butcher parts of their bodies and store human flesh in Tupperware bowls in the freezer so he could mince and mix amongst his pork and roast beef sandwiches that he was serving to the unsuspecting community at his roadside open pit barbecue cart, stating, quote, "The human body tastes very similar to pork. If you mix it together, no one can tell the difference," end quote. When his special meat would run low, he said he would just lure another crack whore to his trailer to replenish the supply. Now, Joe said he murdered because, quote, "I just enjoy it," end quote. In 1998, Joe was sentenced to life in prison for the murders of Kimberly Spicer and Kathy Magaziner, and given 50 years for the kidnapping and attempted sexual assault of Rita Kemper. There were several other charges, including the killing of Tony Ingracia, who was a 28-year-old that was found in 1994 near Interstate 95, very close to the pallet company property. And yet, another decapitated unknown's woman body that they found. Problem is, although Tiny has confessed and elaborated on multiple other murders and these murders, victim stories, cannibalism, the evidence isn't there. So it cannot really be proven truth or not.
Because he ate the evidence.
Right. And he served it to the community.
Girl, he fried green tomatoed.
He did. So
if you don't know what fried green tomatoes is, go watch the movie.
Yeah.
But he fried green tomatoed them. When you were saying it, I was like, what the
yes.
is happening right now?
When did that movie come out? Do you think it was based on that? I don't know. Curious.
I don't know.
So yes, curiosity and mystery obviously surround this case because what really happened? Did he murder all that he claimed? Did he really serve up barbecue human sandwiches? On August 5th, 2017, 62-year-old Joe would be found deceased in his cell by a guard at Western Correctional Institution in Cumberland, Maryland, putting this awful case to an end. And we will never know.
Ugh, something had to end that rampage of. So they discovered him while trying to do the car theft thing.
Yeah, so the company owner was running like this whole like burglary ring. Like they would be stealing from like the big trucking companies. They'd be stealing pallets. They'd be stealing guns, drugs. They were doing all this. So the investigators are like watching, like they have the cameras like watching like the property, the comings and the goings. not realizing, which is kind of funny considering he's bringing women on, but his trailer was all the way to like the back corner, so maybe it was out of the viewing area.
Plus, they probably weren't paying. They're probably like, he's just some peon that lives on the property. They're probably not paying too much attention to him until they realize people are coming in and not leaving.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, Hayden Irving Clark was born July 31st, 1952, in Troy, New York. At some point, the family does end up moving to Maryland. Now, in 1984, his brother, Bradford Clark, strangled a woman in California before eating several body parts.
Yep.
So, Hayden is also a cannibal, and that will come to light in this story. My question is, what happened to these children that two of them became so violent?
And that is the question.
Two cannibals in the same family, and not because the parents are cannibals. What were you doing to these children? His parents were alcoholics who frequently fought in front of the kids, and Clark's dad had a PhD in chemistry, but he frequently would change his jobs seeking more money. He was like, I'm better than this. We're moving again because I'm gonna get this other job over here. Like, he job hopped a lot. They moved multiple times every year because his dad was literally chasing money. Clark liked to kill animals as a teenager of people who had bullied him.
His way of getting back at them.
Yes, it was his way of getting back at them, but also a precursor to being a serial killer, right? A lot of serial killers fuck with animals first. His mother would dress him in girls' clothes and call him Kristen when she was drunk.
Wow.
Not because she didn't have a daughter either, I might add.
Right. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, but she had a daughter.
Uh-huh. His father committed suicide in 1982, and then Clark left shortly after that to serve in the Navy until 1985 when he was discharged and diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. Maybe because your mother was dressing you in girls' clothes and you were being habitually bullied at school. Your parents were alcoholics. I mean, there's multiple reasons.
Yeah.
So Clark loved to cross dress, and several people in his life were very much aware that he would do this. He was said to have murdered 12 to 22 people, and we only know about two of his victims because there's not enough evidence. He likes to tell stories, and they're unsure if he's claiming other people's murders. They know some of these other people are actually dead and have their remains, but there's not enough evidence to link him. So they think he's just claiming it. Although, if you watch some of the stuff, I think he did murder those people. The two victims are Michelle Dorr and Laura Holting. His mother may have drank during her pregnancies, since apparently that's what you did in the 50s. Like, it wasn't frowned upon like it is now. And I'm not talking a glass of wine, I'm talking like women would drink.
Yes.
So, over the years, he had several menial jobs, but usually he was homeless. Clark was arrested many times for theft, vandalism, robbery, and retaliation. So he wasn't putting up with nobody's bullshit.
I mean, that started as a kid killing Fluffy. I mean,
Yes, it extended through adulthood. On May 31st, 1986, he was evicted from his brother Joffrey's house. Now, this is a different brother than the one that went to prison. Michelle Dorr, whom was 6, came over looking for Clark's niece. So he's been evicted, but he hasn't left yet. And her friend waddles over and looks for her friend. He answers the door and told her she was upstairs, and when he got her up there, he slashed her throat. Then he attempted to sexually assault her corpse, drank some of her blood, and ate some of her flesh, and then stuffed her body in a duffel bag. Then he drove 12 miles down the road and buried the body. I'm assuming more than 2 feet deep.
yeah, probably more than 2 feet.
That still boggles me.
For
Then,
real.
on October 18th, 1992, he killed 23-year-old Laura Holting. Clark was working for Laura's mother, Penny, as a gardener, and Laura had accused him of stealing tools from the shed. Now, if you catch, like, 1986 to 92, You're telling me he didn't murder anyone in between there?
Oh, I'm sure he did.
That's what I'm saying. I think they just don't have enough evidence and they can't trust his mind, which is why they can only link him to those two.
Right, but him saying they're claiming that he did during that time, I'm sure it's accurate.
Clark entered the house and found Laura in her room. He stabbed her several times and then suffocated her. Clark then carried her body in a sheet through the woods, like he wrapped her up in a sheet, drug her out of the house like that, and through the woods behind the house. Okay, he did that for half a mile, and then he buried her. Clark returned and then dressed up in women's clothes and a wig to make people think Laura had left the house through the front door. Like he was trying to make sure nobody knew he did this.
But no one's seen him dragging a whole big body sheet down the road. Like, no one's
Well,
seen.
no, so it was like out through the back door, and apparently their woods were behind the house, and he just dragged the body out there and kept going for half a mile and then buried her.
Man, don't be making enemies of your gardener.
Then he came back to clean up, but accidentally left a bloodied fingerprint on one of the pillowcases. Now he's been arrested for multiple things in the past, so they have his fingerprints. So immediately the print hits as Clark's. 8 months after the murder, he confesses and leads police to the body. Later, he confessed to Michelle's murder after police re-looked into it and found her blood at his old place. So they went to the brother's place. They went up to the room, searched the whole room, pulled up floorboards, discovered there was a ton of blood underneath these floorboards, like in the subfloor, and like pulled that up and took it back for DNA and like linked the two together. This is how they got him. They did a lot of work just to do that. He eventually led them to her body as well. He claims to have murdered dozens of people starting when he was in high school. I wouldn't be surprised. I told you he was a precursor. Clark confessed to several murders over the years. So they would come back and try to get him to like confess to other stuff, but they literally just couldn't link him to anything. But because of his schizophrenia, they are unsure which murders are real. One of these so-called murders was in 2004. Lady of the Dunes is what you'll want to look up. It was later said that her husband at the time was said to be the murderer. However, he still denied it. Was he really the murderer?
Hard
It
to.
might have been because the case kind of sounds like maybe, but at the same time, they got into a huge fight on their honeymoon and she took off walking, supposedly, and he never saw her again. She could have ran into Hayden. He claimed they had a fight during their honeymoon. He never saw her again. So, what do you think happened? And then in 2000, he led them to his grandparents' place where they found a bucket with over 200 pieces of jewelry in which he claimed they're all trophies. And they linked one of the class rings to Laura. So he may have possibly killed over 200 people.
Yes. Or I mean, at least Laura.
Well, they knew he did. That's the 23-year-old he drugged behind the house.
What was the name of the honeymoon? Oh, Lady of the Dune.
Yeah. So how many did he kill and or attempt to kill? I do not think we will ever know. I would say with DNA and all the jewelry, now they might be able to solve some of their unsolved cases with this info. However, sadly, this has not been done yet. So they're like sitting on all this jewelry, possible DNA evidence, and they're just not. No one's went back to the bucket and even tried to see. At this point, he's already like he's in jail for life, right?
Yes, but they should still try to bring
But
like.
why have you? He's not even actually. He's in jail, but it's like my point is he's not getting out. Why are you not giving peace to the family so they know what happened?
Exactly.
That would be my point. I'm not saying going like after all these the over 200 convictions for this person who's already in jail for life, right? I'm saying connect the dots for the people who are sitting around waiting. They don't ever know what happened. Some people still have hope their loved ones are out there somewhere.
Or that lady's husband. Did he go
Yeah,
to prison?
yeah, he went to prison. Yep.
Yeah. See? What about him?
All, and I realized you were not going to be able to find everybody.
No.
But I think it would help a lot of families if somebody was like, "Hey, we should do this."
Right. Just at least go through it and image the things. Like, yeah.
Swap for DNA, image it. If you think it fits this murder, do it, and you got DNA from this murder, you can cross match.
Okay. So now let's finish this off with a little of the unexplained. Maryland's cryptic creature is the snallygaster. The snallygaster is a chimera, which is a hybrid type creature that's composed of different animal body parts, like the body of one animal, the head of another, the tail of another. So, like a slew of animals in one. So, anyhow, the snallygaster is a bird reptile creature described as half reptile, half bird, having a metallic beak lined with razor sharp teeth, sometimes with octopus like tentacles. The snallygaster is said to swoop silently from the sky, picking up and carrying off its victims. Sometimes it would suck the blood out of them. Having enormous wings, claws like steel, eye in the center of its forehead. It sounds like a locomotive's whistle when it screeches. The Smithsonian Institution actually offered an award for its hide. It's been depicted in many books and many legends. Have you ever heard of the snallygaster or maybe read about it in J.K. Rowling's Fantastic Beasts and where to find them? Let us know. We are interested.
Oh, yeah, I don't think I remember hearing about that. So, well, we would like to thank you for joining us in our discoveries of Maryland this week. Please join us next week while we travel to Massachusetts. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss our adventures next week into killers, psychos, and the unexplained.
Bye bye.
Bye.